Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies, and this is a bowl season of upheaval for the ACC. There's so much upheaval, I can't even speak, Lauren.
Upheaval for people. Yes.
People, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I tweeted this the other day, and one person called me ageist, and that's whatever. But I mean, in 3 years, I think you'll see why. In 3 years, I don't think any current Coastal coach from this past season will be in their job.
Yeah.
In 3 years. I mean, maybe you think Mac will last longer than 3 years. Okay, cool. You know, he's maybe not. Who knows? I mean, it is wild, though, that he's the likeliest to still be there. I mean, Jeff playing out the string at this point.
I mean, I think with Mac Brown's its own separate conversation, which we can get to later about what the actual goals are of Mac Brown's return, which even though they finished 6-6 and they'll be playing South Carolina in the Mayo Bowl, that if you look at recruiting and how people talk about North Carolina, it's still successful for Mac Brown. It's actually something that Greg Barnes Barnes of Inside Carolina said something last week that kind of stuck with me, in that when he said, you know, people are wondering about what they're going to do with the coordinator position, specifically like Jay Bateman, the defensive coordinator for UNC. And Greg said something that I thought, it just kind of made me go, oh yeah, I guess that's right. Like, there's no pressure on Mac, right? Like, it's not the same at Carolina as it is other places, like Justin Fuente at Virginia Tech, and we understand why he's coming.
Well, it's weirdly a completely different situation for Mac in Carolina. Yeah. Because, like, yes, if he were any other coach at North Carolina, there would be more pressure on him, but he's not. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you see that in the way that people talk about, you know, like you said, the coordinator changes and stuff. It's not, and I'm not saying that they should talk about firing Mac. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't think they should, but I'm just saying that, like, at a lot of schools, he would be looked at as, oh, is this working out or whatever? But instead, because of the way we understand that the program's running and everything else, there is this sense of like, well, he'll just get rid of coordinators and whatever, and that'll be that.
Yeah. So let's actually start with the games first, and then we can get to all of the changes that are taking place within the ACC. Congratulations to Pitt and Pat Narduzzi and Kenny Pickett for winning the ACC championship against Wake Forest. I know there's some controversy with fake slides and everything else. And Dave Clawson, the head coach of Wake Forest, is absolutely right in pointing that out. With the bang nature of football and how much emphasis there is on targeting, you cannot take that. You can't take advantage of that. I'll be curious to see how the offseason discussion with the coaches go. But Pitt's going to go to the Peach Bowl, where they're going to take on Michigan State. So congrats to them. NC State is headed to the Holiday Bowl, which, you know, for old people like me, I know Gilio pointed this out too, Lauren. Holiday Bowl actually has some significance. It's one of the older bowls out there. It's a trip for the players to go out to San Diego, different from going to Jacksonville again for the Gator Bowl. I think State fans had their hopes set for the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando, easy trip down to Disney World and Universal and everything else. But with Clemson there, outside of the college football playoff for once, you knew that they were going to take that for TV purposes and travel purposes and everything else. But from the players' perspective, I think it's a great trip and a good reward for the NC State players.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Gilio put it well yesterday when I think he tweeted something like, the Carolina win was for the fans. That was your gift. This is a gift for the players and the team. And this is, I mean, do they care how old the Holiday Bowl is? No. But, like, as bowl destinations go, I mean, listen, I've been to San Diego once in my life, and it made me want to make money by any means necessary so that I could live there. I was like, this place is rad. I want to live here. And, so I think that they will enjoy themselves as State fans are learning. Tickets, a little pricey to get out there.
A little bit.
But that's not for the players to worry about. They don't have to. And so I think it's pretty cool for them.
No college football playoff for the ACC, which without Clemson, we kind of knew that was going to be the deal. So the ACC is making things interesting by having a bunch of changes on the Coastal and the Atlantic. So let's start with where things are in the Coastal. We already know that Justin Fuente is out. They've got a new head coach. Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia surprised everybody with his sudden resignation. Duke is still looking for a football coach after David Cutcliffe and Duke decided to have a conscious uncoupling. But leave it to Miami in the Coastal to have the wildest of off seasons By all indications, as of this recording, it's what time is it? 12:48 on Monday. Mario Cristobal is going to leave Oregon for gobs of money at Miami. And they had Manny Diaz still as the head coach when all this was going on. And then they fired Manny with the expectation that Mario was going to take the job at a high amount of money. And then there's the AD matter too, which apparently was a separate conversation altogether that was not tied to the head coach at all. And the reason why, Lauren, is that you have this new interested money at Miami that has taken over. I guess they got tired of the school not taking matters into their own hands. So they've decided, fine, we're going to use our money to get what we want. And Cristobal is the guy. I don't know if it's going to work for Miami and Mario Cristobal, but hey, I give them I give them credit for at least understanding that if you want to play big boy football, it's going to require big boy money.
Look, I'll get to Miami in a second. I do have to say, I know, because they're the attention seekers of the Coastal Division.
Yes,
but
they are.
Shout out to Virginia Tech. We never know if hires will work or not. This seems to be a hire that makes a lot of sense for them. It's a guy that has geographical connections already. They signed a dude from Virginia, which is an upgrade, from what they were doing before. He seems to get their importance of like Bud Foster and Frank Beamer to their culture. I think so far, so good. That seems to be a good hire. Now for Miami. I mean, listen, I feel like if you wanted to boil down the last year or so of college athletics and explain to people where it is now versus where I think the illusion, some of us still suffering under the illusion of some righteousness in college sports, really you need to point to two things. And one is this story, and the other is the coaching changes other places and stuff like that. But this story is wild. I mean, you said, hey, they needed to get the money, and Stuart Mandel and Manny Navarro wrote about the fact that it came from Miami's U-Health system, a lot of it, which made over $400 million in profits last year. What happened last year? I wonder. So I don't know, man. It feels pretty bleak that they would not only court a new coach while they still have one, not have an AD yet, because who cares? Doesn't matter when you have all that football money in there. Who needs an AD? Why even hire? If you're an AD at this point, I don't know. I mean, of course you're going to take the job, but basically they just made that decision for you. They basically were like, we don't want the AD to make this hire. We're going to go ahead and take care of it. And
we've seen that before.
From COVID-19 to buy out an existing coach and lure a new one. My God, is that bleak, y'all?
That's my favorite part.
As anything, and it is depressing. And you feel by the way, it's enough to make you feel bad for Manny Diaz for getting clowned in public. Thankfully for him, he waited to get his buyout instead of just being you're hurting my ego, because he's a smart person. But they were just making him look like an idiot in public for this whole thing is a clown show, and very neatly encapsulates our moment in time, not just in sports, but in sports too.
So let's go through that one by one.
Okay.
I'll disagree on the whole point of the AD, because we have instances locally where the money has told the ADs, hey, if you want XYZ to happen, well then, you need to listen to us. So we've seen this locally as it relates to ADs and not just on AD, it's happened to multiple ADs where they basically told, sit this one out, we'll handle it. You can be at the press conference. So that part doesn't bother me. The COVID thing, you know what? The times we live in, right, Lauren? So yes, it would make sense that the U-Health system, which made so much money off of COVID, would be the reason why they have all this cash to be able to move on in a different direction. I mean, that's just kind of how about that, right? Now,
and it's so great that they're using it for such a good cause that helps. Oh, wait, it's for football. Cool.
This happens everywhere. Sometimes it's oil money. Sometimes it's this. Sometimes it's that. All this money, I think we can all understand the money could be used for other things that are more helpful to move society in the right direction.
It's not always as dark as literally coming out of a pandemic.
I know. Well, it's funny to me. Remember last year at this time, everybody was freaking out about, oh my goodness, these poor universities, they have no money and this and that. And we've seen the money now flying around. I'm like,
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. Let's just put that on to bed, shall we?
Never again do we want to hear about schools crying poor.
Only schools that don't have rich boosters, frankly.
Essentially, yes. That's what it comes down to. Now, to your last point about Manny Diaz. You're absolutely right. As much as I was not a Manny Diaz fan, you still have to treat him respectfully. You have to show that you at least feign like you care.
Why?
And the way they handled this with Manny Diaz was absolutely insulting to Manny Diaz, and in a way makes you look like the just deprived group that I guess you are.
That's the thing, though. In a way, I respect it.
I don't know if I respect it.
No. Hear me out, because you're taking the veil off. Like, they don't really respect these. It's not like they really care about Manny. They don't care about Manny. So why would they pretend to care about Manny? And I think you're seeing a lot of institutions, right, take the veil off.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of that in the last year, which, you know what? Cool. Let's not give ourselves like let's not make ourselves feel good about following a sport because they pretend to feign civility and like feign respectability. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like
now here's the thing. All these coaches and the changes that are taking place on the Coastal side of things, I mean, that just adds to the Coastal chaos. The actual move that has most people intrigued, I think, I'm certainly more intrigued by it, is what's going on over at Clemson. Brent Venables finally took the job that made sense for Brent Venables.
It's probably not the only job he would take, yeah.
I mean, you can Google all the connections he has to Oklahoma and Bob Stoops and everything else. And Venables' name has come up for multiple big-time jobs. But this is the one, and there is something to be said about waiting for the job.
Yes.
Because Venables was highly paid at Clemson. He enjoyed what he was doing down there. He had a lot of success. But the job he actually wanted finally came available. Now he has it, and people are hyped for him, and he's hyped for the job, obviously. But combine that with Tony Radakovich, or Dan Radakovich, I should say, the AD at Clemson, which at this point in the recording is kind of nebulous as to whether he's taking that Miami job or not. Clemson finally, since they've turned the corner, back in what was that, 2012, 2013, for the first time in program history under Dabo, they actually have to deal with what other good programs have had to deal with in the past. The loss of coordinators, big-time coordinators, going through changes in missing or going through a recruiting class that you've missed, and then obviously going through the changes of college football with the transfer portal, which is something that Dabo has talked about. Meanwhile, the Atlantic only looks like it's getting stronger for next year. NC State is bringing a bunch of dudes back. Devin Leary should be good. You see, Malik Cunningham and Phil Jerkovich at Boston College. So you also have Jeff Hafley at Boston College, another year where people are very high up on him as a coach. So things in the Atlantic seem to have ratcheted up just a little bit while Clemson's going through it. It's going to be another interesting season in the ACC next year. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is and you're also seeing, I mean, like you said, the transfer portal, like some high-profile dudes transferring out of Clemson. And, with what you read and see a lot with Dabo, he tends to be a little bit more like a David Cutcliffe was at Duke, where he likes to promote from within. And so it'll be really interesting what he decides to do at defensive coordinator, because that position and what Brent Venables has done has been a huge key to their success. And I'll be really intrigued to see how much he looks towards the transfer portal now. I feel like they don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, because this is a transition. It's still going to be, in my opinion, another transitional year of sorts for Clemson. I will give Clemson credit. I think by the end of the year, they were playing more like the team I frankly expected to see most of the year. Not an amazing offensive team, but a really good defensive team still, and a good enough offensive team. That's how they were playing by the end of the year. Now, the way they started, it was a little rough, but I thought they did a good job of getting them turned around there. I thought their staff did a nice job, and I think they deserve some credit. And by the end of the year, I think they were more like what I thought Clemson would be. And so that's great and all, but, like you said, again, there's changes happening. It's a pretty big deal. And I think, again, these teams in the Atlantic Division that I still had chirping at me when I was trying to say, like, the other divisions are really not that different. At least this year they were not. This is still your opportunity. Yeah. This is still your opportunity, and it's there. And I don't want to hear whining about Clemson, whatever, because now, yes, the rest of the division is tougher, but it's at least more of a doable scenario for everybody to get out of that division. For someone not named Clemson to get out of that division, you might as well do it now while you still can.
Well, let's go wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We will see you all later in the week.